What we do here is go back.
Welcome to the Butler Press Pass. I'm Peyton Kime.
And I'm Chris Lewis.
We have a fantastic show planned for you today, including a feature on Paul Jorgensen, along with a live interview with men's basketball coach LaVall Jordan. Chris, you excited?
Absolutely. It's going to be a great show.
Let's get right into it.
Let's start off by looking back at last week's games against the Creighton Blue Jays and other highlights from across Butler sports.
On Tuesday, the Bulldogs improved their tournament resume by knocking off the Blue Jays by a score of 93-70. In his final game inside Hinkle Fieldhouse, Keelan Martin dropped 26 points while shooting an efficient 10 of 15 from the floor. The team had the weekend off, but returns to action on Wednesday at St. John's.
The baseball team took their undefeated record on the road this weekend for a 4-game series against the George Mason Patriots. The Bulldogs took Game 1 by a score of 5-4 in 11 innings. Games 2 and 3 were part of a doubleheader on Saturday in which the Bulldogs took both games. The Bulldogs completed the 4-game sweep of the Patriots on Sunday with dominant pitching as they won 3-0. The team hits the road again next weekend as they head to Florida to face St. Peter's and Pittsburgh.
Switching back to men's basketball, Paul Jorgensen has provided a spark on the offensive end for the Bulldogs this year. Through 29 games, Jorgensen has averaged just over 10 points per game in his first season with the Bulldogs since transferring from George Washington. Now, with more on Jorgensen, is our Eric Robinson.
Redshirt junior Paul Jorgensen has been a source of energy for the Bulldogs since he transferred from George Washington University in 2016. He was required to sit out last season because of the transfer process, but said he took advantage of that year to improve all aspects of himself.
Focus on schoolwork, focus on my game, my body, and other things I needed to improve to kind of maximize this year I was going to play. So overall, I enjoyed it. I think I benefited from it a lot.
Assistant coach Emerson Campen said he saw a lot of improvement in that year off, and it has transitioned into his first year on the court for the Bulldogs.
I think he used his year off and really improved his skill. His jump shot is a lot better than when I first got here, and he's a worker. He works really hard, and then, you know, as this season has progressed, we've got to see his personality, and he gives our team a lot of life, a lot of personality. When he's humming and playing well, we're pretty good.
Jorgensen said he gets some of that energy from playing at Hinkle Fieldhouse, an arena with fans that he says are tough to beat.
I think we got the best fans in the country. You know, when you make a big shot or make a big, defensive stop in Hinkle, it's nothing like that sound when the place goes crazy. It's a really, really, really good feeling.
One play that lit up Butler fans came on December 30th, 2017 against then top-ranked Villanova. With a minute and 29 seconds left in the first half, Jorgensen let go of a three from around the edge of the Bulldog and drained it.
I think he made a three from like the ear in the Bulldog and then fell on the ground. I don't know how he fell on the ground or why he fell on the ground, but
he knew he was going to shoot it the entire time.
So I hit 2 shots before that. It was at the end of the first half, and I just made 2 threes before that. So I got the rebound, and once I got the rebound, I knew I was going to shoot it. I just didn't know where I was going to shoot it from. And then I dribbled up. I saw Bridges was in front of me. He was really 6'7", probably like 7 foot long with his wingspan. So once I saw enough space to get my shot off, that's when I was going to shoot it. And he kind of picked me up early, so I felt like that was the right time to shoot it. And I was kind of hot. I made a couple, so my confidence was kind of high, so I just let it go.
Jorgensen said he's happy with his improvement over the season and that he can use what he's done to come back even stronger in his senior campaign.
This was a good year for me also because now this next summer I could focus on things I want to get better at and really hone in on those, and I think next year I'd take it to another level.
But he's not done with this season just yet. He said there's no reason to think this Bulldog team can't make a deep run into March.
I think we could be a long way. There's no stopping us if we play connected. We beat the #1 team in the country already. So why can't we beat other teams that are up there as well? I think it starts in the defensive end. You know, if we're connected on defense and we share the ball on offense, I think it's going to be tough for us to be stopped.
Jorgensen will hope to keep lighting the fire under the 19-10 Bulldogs as they finish up the regular season. Butler will travel to St. John's on Wednesday before ending up at Seton Hall on Saturday as a gear-up to the Big East Tournament at Madison Square Garden and beyond. For the Butler Press Pass, I'm Eric Robinson.
I know personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Jorgensen can help contribute to the team leading to the Big East tournament.
As a bubble team, Butler will need Jorgensen to be in tip-top shape as they look ahead to who the Bulldogs will face before they're reaching the tournament. First, on the final day of February, the Bulldogs headed to New York to face a surprisingly hot St. John's team. Then, March 3rd, they head over to Seton Hall to try and get revenge on the Pirates. Of course, their final opportunity to show they deserve to be in the big dance comes March 7th, the Big East Tournament in New York.
With such important games ahead, Butler's first-year head coach, LaValle Jordan, has a huge opportunity to break their recent Big East Tournament woes with some big victories. Jordan has gone 19-10 in his first season, implementing his new system, and now looks to give Butler fans a grand finale. Jordan is here in studio now to talk with Press Pass's Savannah Betcher. Savannah?
Thanks, Peyton. Coach LaValle Jordan is wrapping up his first season as Butler men's basketball head coach. Jordan previously coached at Butler from 2003 to 2007 as an assistant. He then made stops as an assistant coach at Iowa and Michigan. Jordan then landed a head coaching position at Milwaukee and now finds himself leading the Bulldogs. Jordan returns to his alma mater where he not only coached for 4 years but also played. Jordan helped the Bulldogs claim their first ever NCAA tournament victory in 2001. Coach, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to know, back in 2001 when you were a player here and then later on as assistant coach, did you ever think you would one day be leading this team?
No, I can't say that. I think, I thought I would play, and I ended up playing for a few years, but that was the dream, to play as long as I could. So no thoughts of coaching at that time.
Right.
And or definitely not sitting in this seat.
So along all the stops that you made, you coached alongside some awesome coaches, coached under some awesome coaches. Who along the way really shaped you, and were there any lessons that you really took away from them?
Yeah, I think playing here at Butler, helped mold the way I see the game of basketball. Playing under Barry Collier, he was a huge influence. Thad Matta, who I played for my senior year, working alongside Brad Stevens, and Todd Licklider was probably most influential. I came back as an assistant to work with Coach Licklider, and before going to Michigan and with John Beilein. And so I would say probably those two in terms of how I prepare every day with practice, and the role of being a head coach and the responsibilities probably shaped the most in terms of our day-to-day operations now.
So what did Coach Licklider and Coach Beilein tell you or say to you when you got this position here at Butler?
They just told me to be myself. I think that was the advice I got last year as the first-time head coach in Milwaukee, and obviously coming back to Butler, there's a way that Butler does things, and I was very familiar with that, and as were our players and our staff. But I think putting our own, sprinkles into the Butler way and the Butler system in terms of how we play, just be yourself, and you'll be fine.
I think we can all agree that Butler has an excellent playing style and has always been an elite team, but how have you really seen that level of competition progress from when you were a player back in the Horizon League to kind of now Butler in the Big East?
Yeah, I think it's the mentality has been the same. It's an underdog mentality, a chip on the shoulder program. Development is huge in terms of our success on the court and off. And there's always been a belief that if we do things our way, we can play with anybody in the country. And now, being in the Big East, you didn't get as many opportunities until you maybe reached the tournament back then.
Right.
Now it's every night in the Big East. It's the best league in the country. You got the best players, best coaches. Coaching is at a premium. And so I think it's fun for our players. It's fun for our fans to be every night. I think the road environments, going on the road in the Big East is unmatched, and so they get to do it on a night-in, night-out basis, and that's different. It didn't used to be that way.
So you mentioned a little bit about that NCAA tournament. Back in 2001, you were actually on that team that got Butler its first NCAA tournament victory win in 39 years. Actually, what was that locker room like afterwards?
It was, we were pretty focused on getting the next one, actually.
Right.
It had been a long time coming, I think, for a couple tournament appearances.
Right?
Yeah. We had a few ourselves, and the year before we'd lost a heartbreaker to Florida in overtime, and so we were itching to get back to the tournament to see someone, and felt like we could advance, and regardless of who it was, it happened to be Wake Forest, and so we thought we could do more damage than just one game, but unfortunately it stopped at one.
Of course, it broke the streak, though, so got that one victory. And so kind of looking in the present right now, Butler's about to head to the Big East tournament, winless in the Big East tournament since joining the Big East after being in the Horizon League. Are you feeling the pressure at all?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think you know it's we got to finish the regular season strong, and that's
Right.
where our focus is. But obviously, you know, Madison Square Garden, the Big East tournament, has a ton of history to it, and I think our guys are aware of that. Fans love going out there, and I think it'd be special. You know, it's Butler's done so much in terms of our basketball tradition and success, but this is something that, you know, for our seniors to be able to do something that hasn't been done yet, I think that'd be pretty special once we get to that point. And so, you know, they'll help lead us, you know, and once we get there. But right now we got a couple road games
Right.
that we need to go and compete well in and finish strong here in the regular season, and then it'll be on to Madison Square.
What advice do you have for your players that you were given before that NCAA tournament game back in 2001 that you're going to pass along in the coming weeks?
You know what? I think it's the ability to stay focused and just kind of be in the moment. You know, you can get to, it can be overwhelming if you're thinking about winning a national title
Yeah.
you know, all at once, but there's one game ahead of you, and it's surviving advance as much as you hear it. You know, once tournament time comes around, and if you have to take that mentality, and your focus has to be just on that one game and shrinking the game and,
Right.
and making it just about one possession at a time.
Now, you mentioned those two seniors, of course, Tyler Weidman and Keelan Martin. They're going to be graduating in the next coming months. What kind of an impact have they truly made on this team this season?
Yeah, I think they've grown a ton. I think that'll be their legacy just as leaders. You know, they had 5 seniors leading them last year, and
Right.
they had to find their own way to lead this group. And so just watching them as they've made progress, you know, every day in leadership on the court and off, and seeing this team kind of rally around them has been fun to watch. It's been fun to coach and be a part of. And so, yeah, I think down the stretch here they're going to be very important, and I think they have the locker room's attention in terms of moving forward in the tournament.
So, of course, players are awesome leaders, but you are also a leader. You are what I consider a player's coach, and I'm sure you've heard that before. I remember there was one moment earlier in the season that Kamar shot a 3, and he was just on fire during the game, and you were jumping up and down on the sidelines. I think it was during a tournament. You were just so excited. Why do you show those emotions to your players?
Well, I think it's you know, it's an emotional game you play. Yeah, there's ups and downs in 40 minutes. We've
Yeah.
played a couple that have gone longer than 40, and so I think when Kamar made that shot, it was to send it to overtime, and
Yeah.
so. But I think there's a raw emotion to it, and you're in it you know, every day in practice with these guys, and you know, I think it's a family feeling. I hope it is, and so when they have success, we're cheering for them, and when they're down, we're there to pick them up and encourage them as coaches and mentors, and they do the same thing for each other as teammates.
Right.
And so I think you have to model the behavior you want your team to display, and we try to do that as a staff.
Do you have any specific moment in this season that was like a turning point for you as a coach, or maybe the team as a whole?
You know, I think there's been moments. I think the Ohio State game was a big moment for us where we were down and had to rally back and showed a lot of resiliency and grit. And I think the Villanova game here,
Right.
as we've grown and been on this journey, was a big one just in terms of confidence, beating
Yeah.
the #1 team in the country and proving to ourselves and others that we could play with anybody in the country. And so, now it's about being consistent here down the stretch and holding ourselves to that standard. It's not just about the one game or one time, and so that'll be the mission down the stretch here.
So heading into these next few games, Big East tournament, NCAA tournament, what are you going to do to really make sure that camaraderie on the team stays positive?
Yeah, I think that's up to our locker room, our guys in the locker room and our seniors as much as it is the staff. Trying to the balance between doing what you need to do on the practice court, but not being out there too long so that they have the energy to compete.
Right.
Because the coaches aren't saying anything new at this point in the year. So now it's about player ownership and player leadership. And so I think we've got a good start, and I think our seniors have a good handle on that, and they'll be leading us down the stretch.
Awesome. Well, game on Wednesday night, Big East tournament in a few weeks, NCAA tournament coming up. Coach, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. Good luck the rest of the season. Guys, back to you.
Thanks. Every week we showcase our certain players or highlights from a week as our top dog. With more now on our top dog moments is Grant Anschutz.
The number 3 top dog moment of the week comes courtesy of Butler men's golf. Sophomore Logan Sabins won the Invitational at Savannah Harbor by 2 strokes, Sabins finished 7 under par after 54 holes of play. Checking in at number 2 is Garrett Chrisman. The third baseman won the first Big East Player of the Week award of the season after driving in 7 runs through their first 4 games. And the number 1 top dog moment of the week was senior night at Hinkle Fieldhouse. The team's 2 seniors, Keelan Martin and Tyler Weidman, led the Bulldogs to a 93-70 win over the Creighton Blue Jays. Martin led all scorers with 26 points, while Weidman finished with 8 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Both seniors received plenty of applause from the Butler crowd during their last game in Hinkle Fieldhouse. This has been the Top Dog Moments of the Week.
Thanks, Grant. Now it's time for a weekly roundtable. Joining me now is Grant and Eric. What are your predictions for the game against St. John's? Eric, you can start.
So I think that this game on Wednesday is going to be a game where 2 teams with a lot of momentum are coming to play. Butler, obviously, with a very emotional win on senior night at Hinkle Fieldhouse over Creighton, big tournament implicating win. And then St. John's, they may be at the bottom of the conference, but they've beaten teams like Duke, Villanova. So it's not going to be a pushover game. Winning on the road in the Big East is never easy, but I think that given the momentum that the Bulldogs have had, I see them coming out on top. Grant?
Yeah, Eric, like you mentioned, the positives for Butler going into this one are they've won 2 in a row, Providence and Creighton. St. John's has a bad conference record, 3-13, and the score in January was 70-45 Butler, so almost a 30-point win there. But last year at St. John's, Butler lost, and like you said, St. John's has won 4 of their last 6, beating Duke and Villanova back-to-back in the process. So for me, I think it's going to be a closer game than people might expect, especially if you just look at that January score. So I have it around 75-65 Butler.
If the Bulldogs lose tomorrow, are their tournament hopes in jeopardy, Eric?
I don't think so. This team has beaten teams like Villanova. They beat Ohio State. Those are teams that have really improved their tournament resume a lot by performing really well this season. And their worst loss right now would be Georgetown. So adding St. John's to that doesn't help their tournament chances, but I don't think that it does enough harm to knock them out of the NCAA tournament.
Where do you think the team will be seeded if they make the tournament?
So as of this week, ESPN had Butler at number 6 seed, while CBS had Butler at an 8 seed. And so since kind of January, Butler's been around that 8, 7, 6 mark, and I don't expect it to change too much from there. I guess worst case they could be around a 10 or 11, best case up to a 5. So I think you're talking in that 5 to 10 window, but mainly the 6 to 8 window.
Yeah, I think that it's going to depend a lot on what they do in the Big East tournament. 2 more games on the road could really help them out, St. John's and Seton Hall. But it's really going to come down to what happens at Madison Square Garden. Right now, I have them at about an 8, but if they do well in the tournament, I think they could easily move up to about a 6.
What's the ceiling of the Butler basketball team, Grant?
I would say Final Four. I mean, because as we've seen in past years, anything can happen in March. And two of the 1 seeds in the tournament right now are supposed to be Villanova and Xavier if that holds out. And that helps Butler because there's some familiarity there. If you run into them at the later stage in the tournament, it's probably a little bit easier game plan against them as opposed to Virginia or Michigan State or another 1 seed. Also, they have the senior leadership you need to make a deep tournament run, and Keelan Martin and Tyler Weidman. And as we've seen also throughout the year, there's been really no clear number 1 in college hoops. Everyone's been beatable. There's no 39-0 Kentucky team like that one year. So I think it's anybody. The Final Four is the ceiling.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. For Eric and Grant, I'm Chris Lewis. This has been Butler Press Pass. We had our credentials, and now you have yours. See you next week.